Oh, we're on mute.
Oh, there we go. Now let me see if I should be mute in Clubhouse, because you know how that goes, girl. I'm not trying to have all those interference. Okay. Can you hear me? Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I'm so excited about this show. Can you hear me, Janet? All right. So I'm so excited about the show and really just surviving the teenage years. So let me tell you a little bit about what happened with me as a parent. Of course, my name is Linnell. I am the soul mentor. And one of the things that I learned as my children were growing up was that they were not willing to be seen and not heard. They grew up in an environment where technology was easily accessible. We were a quote unquote broken home according to the standards of the world. However, my children were basically children that were latchkey kids. So I went to work, I came home, I fed them, made sure that they were in the house, and then I would go back to work. And that was my testimony for a large portion of their lives. And one of the things that happened was as my children were getting older, although I was providing for them, I wasn't there for them in the physical sense, but I was always a phone call away. We were always making sure we did things together. As they became teenagers, they started to look at their situation and they wanted to know, well, Mom, how come this person, their father is here and my father is not? And so my boys especially, they had periods of times during their teenage years where they were really rebellious because of the fact that I was their mom and what I was saying, they were closing off their ears. But at the same time, they weren't being in the streets or anything like that. What they did was they started to go into school. Actually, they introverted into school and they started joining more after school activities. They started working. They started being more independent of me because at that point I was more independent of them. And so one of the ladies in Clubhouse said that she wished she was there more. And that's what I wish too. But at the same time, what my children saw was someone who knew how to work for what they wanted. Nothing came easily to me, and I never expected anything to be handed to me. I expected to work for everything because it's a different feeling when you can hold your head up high and say, everything I have accomplished in this life has been because of my own blood, sweat, and tears, as opposed to it just being handed over. I feel when we hand things over to our children too much, they get the impression that they don't have to work for it. Someone else is going to provide it for them. And that was never the lesson that I wanted my children to learn. And so the way I navigated those teen years and those times of rebellion with my children and the testosterone that was flying high in the house was that I let them know, regardless of what it is, I am your mother. And I am a woman, but at the same time, I am not going to tolerate disrespect and I'm not going to tolerate rudeness in my household. I'm not going to tolerate you deciding that because of the fact that your father wasn't here, you're going to now do what you want to do, because that's not how we live in my household. And so that's how I navigate those teenage years. And sometimes I'm telling you, I'm going to be just straight up honest with y'all. It was a struggle. But you know what? My sons and my daughter can hold their head high anywhere and say, what I have, I worked for. And that's what I did. So thank you so much, Janet, for that question. I'll turn it over to the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Linnell. And
Janet?
Oh, yes.
No, go ahead. I didn't know if you wanted us to chime in to that. I know that you said that we had to really focus on, some of the things that we had gone through. I think some of us wrote it out, but I'm going to shift it back to you to speak to Tanya.
No, I just wanted to thank Linnell. And yes, we're all going to share our little journeys of what we went through. And really quickly, I went through the same thing. Not exactly because I had the father figure there to have my back when it came to it. But it was a struggle still, because when kids, especially, I don't know about you, but daughters are more rebellious than sons, it seems like. I know I was rebellious with my mother, and my daughter became rebellious with me, with us as well. So I understand the struggles. And I asked my daughter, now that she's grown up, I asked her, what was it that I could have done different? What was it that we could have done different? And what her reply was, to have more one-on-one time.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. I love that she shared that with me. I wish I would have known that back then. Maybe it wouldn't have been so difficult, right?
Yeah.
So I'll take it away to the next speaker, Seer, Tanya, and Malika. Thank you all for being here so much. Take it away.
Pass it to Tanya.
Hi, everyone. Now, this is an exciting topic because, teenage years, I think about it. What did I put my parents through, right? I know growing up, when you get to like 14, you know it all, right? When you get to 15 and 16, parties can be like a priority instead of studying. And I see that sometime in my son, getting to the court is more important than doing their homework, right? So, as Linnell says, sometimes when a male figure is missing in the home, you know, children, they know how to play around, right? So they'll say, okay, if dad's not here, I can get away with mom. And in my home, both parents are there, but they'll know exactly which parent to ask certain questions, and so where they can get away with certain things. So as a parent, raising two teenagers, my daughter is 16, about to be 17, and my son is 14. Okay, I raise them on the word. Okay, the scripture never fails. Train up a child in the way they should grow, so when they become older, they'll never depart from it. So my key tips is to pray over your children and also let them know that you're the parent. Okay, they're going to test you. They know it all, especially these kids now. They're so technically inclined. They think Instagram is the real world, and they think these, and as Linnell says, we're not going to give them things easily, right? Because our parents taught us how to work hard. So getting things easy is not the best way to train our children. And they're pretty expensive, right? Teenagers are pretty expensive, so they need to have jobs. They need to work, earn, and save, because we are going to raise very good adults, because when they leave our homes, they're in the world and we have no control. So I raise them on the world, and I raise them on the word, and I also raise them with a lot of discipline. Okay, it's big, but they're gonna get distracted because they're gonna follow somebody else, right? But we have to bring them back to like, okay, this is what I need to get done. I'm Tanya, and I'm complete.
Thank you, Tanya. That was beautiful. Raise them with the scripture. I love that.
Yeah.
Malika, would you like to share? Are you on mute?
I'm unmuting.
Okay, there you are.
We can hear you. Now you're muted.
No, you're muted again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Malika, you're muted.
While she's working on that, let me let her work on that. I don't know. I'm gonna let her work on that briefly, and I definitely want to hear her because she's phenomenal.
Yes.
I'm gonna say that I listened to everyone as far as having teenagers, and all I could think about, and I say this, and I give God glory. I just want to share my experience, and I know that at some point we'll get to the points. I would say that it was really rocky. I grew up in a home where my father was an alcoholic. My mother was a strong woman, still is, single mom of three. We lost my sister during the time that my mother was a single parent. So it was rocky. I don't think that we have the book on anything. All we have is the experience that we experienced as we grew up. So that kind of shaped a lot of things for me as a parent, right? So, of course, with that, it took me to, I don't have the book on this. What in the world? Okay. So, so I would say that in the beginning, it was novice. It was novice. Find your way. What is this? I'm just being totally transparent. And then I lost my child to murder. So then I went from that to, how can I be better at this? I don't know who this is helping, but as you were talking, all of this was going on inside of me, because you start out not knowing a thing. Then you become a single parent. I'm going to talk about me. I become a single parent. So now I'm mommy and daddy. So then I'm stepping into those roles as well as finding my way. And my daughter's 23, my son is 18, get ready to go to military, graduate, and you just don't know. So I would say I could not pull one exact experience. All I could think about was the whole thing, you know, the whole thing of just being a mom, being courageous enough after my experience to be a mom. Because when you go through, listen, you already have the
Seer, you froze up. Oh no.
then it's a whole nother book. We're back.
There
Are
you
we
go.
back?
Yes.
All right. Then you go through all of that to just being courageous. I'm also someone that raised my children in the admonition of the Lord. If I did not put that seed inside of them, that my mother put inside of me, that's the best thing I can give them, which is the Lord, right? So, all of my experience, I had a lot of experiences, but at the end of the day, courage was the main thing that I believe I imparted. That's one of my points anyway. Courage to stand up as a mom, courage when I didn't understand everything, courage, so I couldn't really put one experience. It was the whole thing for me, being the mom and dad, being courageous enough to say, I can raise that daughter, I can raise that son. And someone else said something about maybe a daughter is different than a son. For me, to me, it was the fact that even though they have different fingerprints, they do come in different packages. So I found that I had to navigate myself in what they needed in each child in their state. Does that make any sense to somebody? So that's what I'll say. I wasn't trying to talk that much, but you guys stir it up inside me like that. So
I love it.
I'm gonna yield back to Janet.
I love it, Seer. Never yield back, because if it's speaking to you, you got to share it, okay? And you share a lot of wisdom, and I love it. So thank you so much. And do we have Malika in the room? And everybody here on Clubhouse and YouTube, if you guys can share some orange hearts for Seer and Linnell and Tanya, I would so appreciate it. Oh my God, if you got any
And for
value,
Janet.
thank you. Go ahead,
God,
Malika.
can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Oh my God. Well, I don't know what happened. Technology. So I was sharing my story too. And I could say, well, I was a teenage mom. I had my first son at 19. And my mom was the type of mom who believed if you had them, you raise them, you take care of them, you figure it out. She was not the babysitter. She was not the rescuer. And so I had to button up my bootstraps and really put some things in order so that I could be a good mom. I knew that my son was going to be taller than me and bigger than me because he was a big child. And so back then I had a little bit more energy. So for him, it was kind of, I instilled fear in him at a young age, like, don't mess with me, kid. And he was the type of mild mannered kid that if he got in trouble for something, I never had to have, he was never a repeat offender. It's like he got the message the first time. He was a little bit more easier to raise as a teenager. He's a little laid back. And even as an adult now, he's still kind of laid back. And if I try to mother him too much, he'll be like, Ma. But these two I have right now, y'all just pray for me, right? Because I have an 11-year-old girl and a 14-year-old, and I go through a lot of, you know,
Yes.
competition. You know, having kids close in age. Like I was a twin, and I used to go through it with my brother. It would always be like, "Mommy loved me more than she loved you." So I tell myself, I don't like either one of
Yeah.
y'all. No, I love them. I love my kids, and anybody that knows me knows I love my kids. But I say that because sometimes I want them to feel like I don't love anybody better than I love the
It's
other ones.
true.
I say I love you both. I go hard for the both of you. I'm
It's
gonna be fair in my ruling. If Rihanna is acting like a girl and she's, being too mouthy, I have to tell her, be quiet. If Makai is being unfair, be quiet. If they're fighting, I'm fighting both of them. Like I don't I don't take sides. Like you can't it I'm not,
right.
I always say I'm not the best mom. I'm still trying to figure out because each child is different. And I'm in a position where I am a single mom with two kids, and I got this boy, and I can't teach him how to be a man because I ain't a man. I ain't never been a man, but I can tell him the truth about what I think I would want my man to grow up to be like, or what my man should be like. And I do the same for my daughter, but I see my daughter has a little bit more ambition. She's a little bit more energetic. My boys are more laid back, go with the flow. And so you just have, I really think, one, you have to balance it and you have to know each child for themselves. My mom tells me all the time, you have to set boundaries. And so we went through a phase where, after their father and I split up, I went into survival mode. So like Linnell, I work two jobs right now. The great thing is I get to work at home. So I'm always asking God, can I stay present? Can I be here when they get home from school so that I can kind of govern that afternoon? Because I was a latchkey kid. And I don't want the kids to get into the stuff I could have ventured into with my friends playing hooky from school. And,
Yeah.
I wasn't a bad child, but I did what I thought I could get away with. And so I don't want that for my daughter. I don't want that for my son. And I also take the advice of the men in my life whose lives look like what I want my son's life to look like. So, my friend right now, he's trying to coach me. Don't let that boy lay on that computer all day or play those games all day or be on that tablet all day. You're frying your brain. So I'll have to pause and make him read, or pause and make him write. Uh, you know, get out the bed, give me the tablet. So I have to take the tablet and take the TV, get your chores done,
I
because it's
remember.
about being responsible. Right. It's about being responsible. And kids don't go outside like they used to go outside. And then we moved into neighborhoods that I moved in that doesn't have a lot of kids. And so, my kids are, we don't have any friends. What do? Read a book. So I don't sit here like I'm the expert. I'm like everybody. I'm still trying to figure it out. But I will say I have survived 2 teenage years. So that gives me some hope that I could possibly get through this next set of teenage years. Because, like I said, I have a 33-year-old, and he is wonderful. He's a wonderful guy. He's very personable. Um, he is in the world of hospitality, and whenever I go to any of his jobs, and he works in very upscale restaurants, the patrons always say, "Oh, that's your son. Oh, he's so mannerable. He's so gentle. He's so nice. And I like how when the public gives me accolades about
Yeah.
him. Now, sometimes he gets on social media and I want to be like, I didn't raise you to do that. But they're in a different age where, they curse and stuff like that. And I'm like, ugh, kind of got to lead by example, but I used to let
Yeah.
some swear words flow. So I taught them how. So you got to remember that your kids are always watching you. And that's had to be a piece of advice that I've learned is that your kids are always watching you. And you can't always do as I say. You have to do as you want them to do. So I'm
That's
going to leave
right.
it start. At that point, I'm going to yield the mic.
That's good right there. Woo! I like all that.
Yes. Let's put some orange hearts in the chat for Malika.
Yeah. You made me
Yes,
think of
yes, yes.
you made me think of sis, you made me think of courage. We don't have the book. And I had to take myself off the hook of feeling like I had a book so that I can parent the way I needed to with them. You see what I'm saying? Without stressing myself, without, like, okay, yeah, I made a mistake with that, but I can regroup because we don't have the book. We don't have the book, sis. And I'm going to say you're an awesome mom.
Yes,
You're an
you are,
awesome
Malika.
mom. You are doing it. Doing it. That's all I want to say.
She
If you
is.
don't mind,
You
I'd
know,
love to piggyback on that as well. I'm sorry, were you going to say something? Who was going to say something?
yeah, I was. My mom used to say, if you kill them, you got to eat them. So, I can't kill them. So, you can't kill them, even though they do. But I know I made my mom want to choke me a couple of times too. But like
Yeah.
she said, she said she used to say to my grandmother, I just want to kill him. And she said, if you kill him, you got to eat him. So, parents, you also got to learn how to just walk away from the situation. Y'all go in your room. I'm gonna go in my room. Let's decompress. Let's breathe a little bit and let's go back. I love that my daughter every night now comes in my room and says, "Mom, can we pray?" You know,
Yes.
and so I do. I stay prayerful. I pray to God I don't mess them up, and then they have to grow up and undo what I did. But
And you
hey,
know
they got
what?
help for that too if they
You
do.
know what, Queen? They might. But he said train them up. They'll come right back around. Anyway, they might.
That
Go ahead, Linnell.
So I wanted to speak on what Malika said and what you said, Seer. You talked about the courage and you talked about the kids don't have a manual, right? But the thing of it is that they don't have a manual for us either.
That's
Because
right.
when they're born, they're just meeting us. And as they grow, they're learning us as well. And so if we are in a mindset, and I had to learn this, and I say this because I don't want for people to think that parenting is one style and that's it.
That's right.
What I want is what I want, and what you want doesn't matter. Because when we get to a point where we're teaching our kids that what they want doesn't matter, they don't trust us anymore.
Right.
They don't trust us to come to us
Yeah.
and say, hey, mom, I want to try this instead. And we're saying, you know what? That's great. You want to do that, but this is what I said you're going to do. And when we train our children like that, they grow up to be yes people. They're going to say yes to the things they don't want to say yes to because we have trained them to say yes to something that they didn't want. And so it has always been my goal as a parent to let my children be able to think for themselves. I'm not saying that everything they're going to think for themselves, especially when I know it's going to have a consequence that's harmful to them. But I thank God that I have, I have a prayer line that I'm on every single morning. We've been doing this for 2 years. And I have a network marketing business as well. And I met these people through my network marketing business, but we have a lot of people that are not in my business that come to the prayer line. And this morning, one of the gentlemen said, we used to have praying grandmothers. We used to have praying grandmothers who would cover us. And he talked about in the Bible, and I know a lot of people are not religious, so I'm not trying to force religion on you. I'm just telling you what happened this morning. And he was talking about the story of Job and how Job would offer prayers for his family just in case they went against God. And he said that we are in a situation now where we are so caught up in the likes and the follows that we forgot to pray to the one that is actually able to give us the things that we need in this life. And so, because we don't have these praying grandmothers, because most of them have passed on, and those praying grandmothers, the children saw them praying, but now we're living in a society where we're not to pray and to offer petition to God on your behalf is considered an insult, right? And so I love the fact that you talked about praying over your children, Malika, and the fact that your children come to you asking you for prayer. Because I told my son the other day, and he identifies himself as agnostic, atheist, depends on what day. And I'm going to be real and transparent with you, because you know what? Over here in this house, everything is in perfect unicorns and rainbows, and we don't crap fairy dust over here. So I'm gonna give it to you straight, okay? And I said to him, the reason why I keep introducing you to God, and regardless of if you accept God into your life or not, is because there's going to be a time in your life when God is the only person you can call on. That is the only person you'll be able to call on, and he's the only one that'll be found by you. And so I thank you for sharing that, because we need to teach our children how to pray. And what if the world doesn't understand it? Because at the end of the day, they're going to be going through this life on their own. We're not going to be there all the time. But if we are truly training up our children in the way that they should go, we are going to give them the truth, and we're going to give them the truth of what it is. And so I'm going to go ahead and mute myself out.
That was beautiful, Anel. It's so true. We're giving them the tools that they can, if they don't have no one, they got someone. And that's the word of the Lord. And that's speaking to him and just sharing what they're feeling inside. And that's how I got through my teenage years, is praying a lot. And I shared that with my own children. Even though...
And also, go ahead.
Go ahead, Malika. You're on mute.
Was going to do that. I knew it was going to mute me out. I wanted to say that it's that whole prayer thing. It's not a thing. I remember my grandmother wasn't so much a church person, but she used to watch Fred Price, and I watched her transform from being a drinking woman to then, not just being calm, a little bit calm. And then my mom did not start taking us to church. We started off Catholic, so we would only go to mass on Easter and Christmas. I had some aunties, and they were with the AME church, and so I would go to church with them. And then I had a neighbor who took me to church. We liked the church. I told my mom about the church, and then my mom came and joined the church. And then we were in church every Sunday, and it was like, okay, what did you just do? But here's the thing: when I turned 18 and I walked away from the church, because my mom made me she said, when you turn 18, you get to decide whether you go to church or not, right? When I walked away from the church, that training from 11 to 18 was embedded in me, so that from 18 to 27, while I was out there in the world being as big as bad as I wanted to be, drinking and partying and doing whatever I thought I felt like I wanted to do, when the world started giving me back the consequences of my decisions, I knew where to run.
Yes.
In my teenage years, she gave me the foundation.
Yes.
So that when I got to an age where I could make decisions for myself, if I should make the wrong decision, His grace was there. If I should make the wrong decision, Now I wish, and this is what I tell my kids, and this is what I tell people now that I know better. I tell my kids, you've got a choice in this. I didn't realize that I really had a choice in my life. And I feel like if I let them know as children, as you have a choice, and I do let them make some choices, but I also let them feel the consequences of their choices. So you made this choice, and this is the consequence of it. Now, God's grace can keep you just like God's grace kept us, you know? And I never ever want to feel the pain like Sia had to feel the pain of her son being murdered. You know, I
Daughter.
tell my life is real, and it's not like this fantasy world that you see on TV, that you have to put forth some effort in order to get some results. And so, yes, so your son is only atheist right now until he in a foxhole, and he's gonna need that. You just keep doing what you do, because I've been on those prayer calls, Linnell. So thank you so much. I'm not always able to jump on at 8:30, but every day you send me the link, and when I'm available, I jump in. And there's some real prayer warriors in there, so we can pray that all of our children,
That's right.
even as adults, because you still got to pray over them once they become adults,
That's right.
that they still make sound decisions, that no hurt, harm, or danger comes their way, that they make good friends, or if they can't make friends, that they learn to get along with themselves while they by themselves and they don't do anything self-destructive. So that's it. I'm Malika Star. I'm gonna yield the mic. I said
You
enough.
know, Malika, ladies, one of the things I thought about as Queen was talking is that I'm so glad I gave my kids the Lord. My daughter's 23 and 8, and my son is 18. And one of the things that I think sometimes we forget, like you said, we were raised a totally different way. We weren't allowed to tell someone how we felt. It's like, shut up. I mean, I'm going here on purpose. We weren't allowed to express anything. It was just do what you're told, right? So I think Janet said, what would you do different? What I did different was I listened to my kids. I allowed them to make mistakes and showed them God's grace and love, to the point where my daughter said, I'm so glad that you met me with the love of God and not with something else, because that is how the root of God gets in them even more. When you show them the grace and you show them the mercy. So when you were speaking, I was smiling because it was like, I thank God. Because how else do you show your child Christ? If they can't see it through you, how are they going to get it? So I want to encourage you now to keep showing him the love of Christ. And I'm telling you, that is the root that's going to bring him home. And I'm going to get on there for your prayer. I don't know where it's at, but I'm coming.
Oh, girl, I'm going to send you out the link. I'll send it out to
Yes.
everyone. But let me tell you about this. This is the interesting part of this conversation. So I have always been a firm advocate that if my children can't, because your children aren't going to tell you everything. If we believe that as parents, we're in a cloud. They're not going to tell you every single thing. And so I believe that sometimes there has to be a neutral party. My son has been seeing a counselor for the last, I'd say, about the year, because when he wasn't able to express the things that he needed to express to me, I wanted him to be able to express it to someone so that there would be no harm, hurt, or danger that came to him, because he's internalizing it. And yesterday, the counselor and I had a conversation, and everything I have been teaching my son, this woman was telling me these are the conversations that I have with him. And my son, who says that he's an atheist, can tell me all about scripture. He can tell me the story of Job. He tells me the story of Christ. He even asked me in certain situations, hey, Mom, but didn't this happen or didn't that happen in the Bible? So he's reading the Bible. He's watching me according to how I live my life and whether or not he can trust. I don't believe it's so much about, whether or not they believe in God. It's whether or not they can trust God to always be there for them, even in the midst of the situations that they're going through.
That's it.
And so when we as parents feel as though we have to crack the whip on them and tell them, you must believe in God, you must believe in God, this is how it is, and if it's not this way, then it's no way. God didn't do that to us. God gives us choice. He gives us a choice every day. We can choose to love him or we can choose not to receive him. We don't have to, he doesn't beat us over the head and say, if it's not this way, then it's no way. So why do we teach our children that? Why do we train our children that way? How can we train our children in the way that they should go when we're not even saying to them the things that God is saying to us?
My God. Mm-hmm.
How can we say to them, oh, you can trust God, you can lean on God, you can believe on God, but yet as Christians, we would rather save face than to listen to our children. And I've been guilty of it. I'm gonna say it. And like I said, over here in this space, and I'm sorry if I might be just a little bit too authentic for anyone on the line, but I'm gonna say here in this space, there's no unicorns over here. There's no fairy dust over here. There's real life, and we are each learning each other in the process. And I'm grateful for all of the lessons that my children have taught me, because they're actually teaching me how to be a Christian. And I'll go ahead and mute myself out.
That's powerful. I also thought about what Queen Malika said. And she mentioned me. I lost a daughter. She was 13 months old. This is for someone, and I got to say it this way because, like you said, there are no rainbows. I lost a daughter to a fiance that I was with that murdered her at 13 months old. I'm saying this on purpose. She was sexually assaulted and beat to death. I was 19 years old. Now listen to this. My assignment in the earth is to reach out to every young woman and give them the signs so they won't lose their child, whether they are, as a matter of fact, there's males that I ministered to, so they won't lose their child, right? So it's also something that I was able to teach my own children about what to watch, what to look for. You see what I'm saying? So we never know, right? We never know why we go through certain things, but it made me a better mother, because there's some young people right now, some young ladies right now that don't even know they got somebody with them that's the enemy, right? So he delivered me to deliver other people. So it's a strength to me, not a defeat. I yield the jet right there.
Yes, Sarah, that's powerful. And that's what the word does. When you're in tune with the word, and we teach our children how to pray and be an example to the world, right? My grandmother always taught me, let others see the Bible through you. You don't have to bring the Bible out, right? Based on your actions, the way you treat others, just let them see Christ through you without bringing your Bible out. But, Sarah, you made a very good point. Sometimes, these teenagers are with individuals that are not really in tune with them. So we have to teach them the signs, okay? Are they on, the way your parents raise you? Are they listening or watching things? So that's where we have to watch, we have to really monitor what they're watching, because there's so many distractions out here that are not in tune with Christ, okay? And, I am really blessed that I had grandparents and parents that believed in the word. And even when I got distracted, the word still saved me. Right. So when I was out here, doing the things that I shouldn't, like partying and doing things, I could always come back to the word, because remember, we serve a forgiving God, right? So those are the areas that I look at. And our children, if we continue to raise them in that manner, they'll be example to other teenagers, right? You have other teenagers that don't know how to pray. And what I'm excited about is that we were raised in churches that it's traditional, it's great. You have a hymnal, you have a Bible, you sing these amazing songs that our grandmothers sung. But now the churches are changing, right? So they're attracting teenagers more now. The lighting, so the music have changed, but it's the same music. Because like the church that my daughter goes to, it's still the word, but when you go in there, it's almost like a concert, but it's still a minister. They're wearing jeans and t-shirts, so they relate to the teenagers, right? So you don't have to be formally going into the church, all dressed up like how we did in our days. So it attract more of them and take them out of the communities that they shouldn't be in. I'm Tanya, and I'm complete.
You guys
This
got me thinking about so much. Oh my God.
hold on to that, Seer. Let's go share that in the clubhouse. Today was an amazing segment on surviving the teenage years. Thank you so much for all your input. And I know someone out there learned something from today's segment. And I so appreciate everyone. So it's going on 2:00, and respectfully, we're going to go into Clubhouse and discuss what we've learned and our tips and tricks again. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank